Hello, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of the day it is. Welcome to Money Mindset Mentors podcast. My name's Laura Lee Kenny, and I come to you from beautiful New Brunswick, Canada, where today it's extremely cold, but it's sunny, and we deal with 4 seasons of the year up here in Canada. I get the wonderful privilege to interview some amazing people that have come through some obstacles, and they're going to share with us some of the mindset that they had to overcome or change in their life in order to have success. Today, I have the privilege of somebody that I've met a few months ago, and it happens to be on the platform here with Be Connected. So it's wonderful to reach out and connect with all these amazing people. This lady has been an educator, and she educated from kindergarten to grade 8. So she dealt with quite a range of children and hormones and all the excitement and stuff that goes along with that. And then she changed her career to become a fitness instructor. And she did it at the young age of 50. And let me tell you, as we age and our body changes and stuff, it we when we're younger, we think, oh, I can remember when I was 15, I thought 35 was over the hill, let alone any other age bracket. But as we age, we understand so much more and we gain wisdom because of the experiences we've gone through. And let me tell you, I say I didn't grow a brain till I was 35, even though I was very book smart. I didn't understand a lot of things. And life for me at age 50 was extremely a great time. I so enjoyed um the privileges and the luxuries that came with that. Now this lady also uh, helps us as we age, our hormones change considerably. And if we don't make some changes in our life, somehow these extra pounds keep being attracted and attached to us, and especially around the tummy and stuff. She has the privilege to work with people, and I love the name of her group. Wait till I tell you in a few minutes. But without further ado, I'd love you to meet Miss Victoria McRay, who is also a Be Connected coach on here as well. Welcome, Victoria. Come join us. There you are. And
Thank
she
you.
comes, you're welcome. She comes from Atlanta, Georgia. She's got a skyscraper picture in the background. And I told her I've been there before because I've been at that enormous airport that you have there. And oh, that was a scary time. I can remember exactly. We had to go from one end to the other to catch a flight and almost didn't make it because I left my bag with my money on the plane and we got it back.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. What a story. You're lucky you got it back, right?
We were. This was back in the 80s, when that happened, but that's for another day. I want people to learn about you and the changes that are going on with you. And today, most of the time, we're going to talk about your being a coach with Be Connected and being a coach to help us reduce and shed those on. I don't want to say we lost something because every time we lose something, we want to go find it. So I like the idea that you say reduce and let go of any unwanted weight that we may have.
Yes, exactly right. Thank you, Laura Lee. And I loved everything you said in the beginning because I'm so about, being this age, I'm so about still, being in contribution, still being in service. It's like just because we're retired doesn't mean, okay, we're done. Let's go read a book. Let's go read every
Mhm.
book. I still do that, but I also love the work. So I'll tell you how it developed was when COVID showed up. I was like, well, can't really travel right now. In the very beginning, we couldn't travel anywhere. Y'all remember. So what I did
Mhm.
was I started a Facebook group for women 50 and over, and it was really, I called it Aging Well. And I was just, because
Mhm.
here we are stuck in the house, so I
Mhm.
gave tips on, go for a walk, and it doesn't have to be a long walk, or do this, or be sure you're stretching. And I was just giving tips and hints about things you could do, way to eat properly. Not I say everything in moderation, and I so mean that. If you love ice cream, I'm never going to tell you can't have it. I'm just going to say don't have it all day long, right? So that's kind of how it started. And what I discovered as I continued to take women on, which I loved in this group, and then we were just having a great time together. But many of them would write me private notes, and they would say, Victoria, I can't do that. When I go even, half a mile, which I didn't even say do half a mile, that's what they would say. Again, everything in
Mhm.
moderation. If you could only do an eighth of a mile, I'm happy for you. Do it, right? But they would say things like that, and they would say, my hips hurt, my ankles hurt, my knees hurt. And I'm thinking, why are these women in so much pain? And these are women 50 and over. And
Mhm.
then I saw the common thread that it never occurred to me because I'm just doing aging well and longevity and let's get through this together. And it turns out many of them are overweight. And the weight is not massive. We're not looking at 200 pounds that are just like so daunting. They were just
Mhm.
like 50, 40, 30 pounds overweight, but it was enough to put
Mhm.
them on, medications for weight related issues like high blood pressure and high cholesterol. So at that moment, I said, oh my gosh, I've got to tell these ladies what I have never told them. And that is
Mhm.
how I developed my program.
Oh, that's wonderful because I do know a little bit, even though I'm not following like I should be. I do have quite a background in nutrition as far as understanding. Um, and I know that as we gain weight, your acidity level gets higher. Therefore, there's more inflammation in the body, which gives you more pain.
Absolutely. And so it was really like a eureka moment for me. And so here's where the eureka really started was Laura Lee, like you just said, I had been a fitness instructor, right? I still was. I mean, I still teach fitness, but we weren't going to the gyms, right? We
Right.
were all stuck at home. Well, the interesting thing was when I went through perimenopause and menopause, I started gaining weight. And
Mhm.
even with what I knew, like you're saying, about nutrition, right?
Mhm.
Even with what I knew, I was still gaining weight. And I'm like, what's going on here? This is crazy. And I kind of thought it was funny at first because I'm like, oh, this is crazy. And I would get it off. It would come back, get it
Mm.
off, and it would come back. And I literally, over the time from perimenopause by the time I finished menopause, this was not funny, right? This was like, wow, this is changing my body. This is changing
Mhm.
the way I feel. And so I knew what happened next would be the medications. If I don't stop this cycle. So I started researching for myself. I wasn't worried about anybody else. I'm trying to save my own life. And what I realized was when I in the research was that women 50 and over, we tend to gain 1 to 5 pounds a year at
Mm.
menopause. And I'm like, once I realized that cycle never ended, like I would think, okay, this is, like everybody says, oh, Victoria, you got an issue, because once we go through menopause, our body changes a bit.
Mm.
And things we
Mhm.
used to be able to do, we can't do as much, right? It's like, oh, if I
Mhm.
eat that many, whatever, this is going to happen. You kind of start seeing the pattern. So at that point, I was like, I've got to come up with something because I ended up doing like yo-yo dieting for a couple of 3 or 4 years, just thinking,
Mhm.
oh, I'll just go on a diet, but it would always come back, which happens anyway, Laura Lee. At any age, diets
Mhm.
don't work. That's my line. I figured it out.
Mhm.
I knew it. Diets don't work. And so that's what I share. That's why I came up with my 31 sneaky ways to reduce weight.
Oh, and I just love it. I'm just gonna highlight
Yes.
a feature on the bottom down here, if you happen to be watching, and, at some point, some of these are clickable, depending on what platform you're watching it on, or if you're watching it on the replay, inside of our group, my group channel, you'll be able to see her links on the left, and they will be hot inside of that recording that you're, and we've got it linked over to Victoria's 31 Sneaky Ways to Reduce Weight Without Dieting.
Yes.
And I just love it. And I want to go back to a little bit about your ageless or your aging. I forget just how your term on
Age
there,
well. Age
age
well.
well. And it's so interesting that something I noticed when I was, um, I had 25 years as skincare consultant. So I took care of my skin, and I know that I look younger than my actual age to most people. Now there's some people that look even younger. They look 20 and 30 years younger than they are because they've got the body physique in addition to it. But I've taken care of my skin, which certainly helps. But I find it so interesting that the energy level with people that do self development, that exercise, and in nutrition, their skin just glows. They look so much younger. They have so much, like we all have the same amount of energy, but you're able to exude such energy, such positiveness just shines from people that are doing that. And I just love it that you can go into a room of 200 total strangers and you can walk around and you can just see who is taking care of themselves with the body and the mind both. I just love it, and most look considerably younger than they are.
Yes. It's amazing, isn't it? I agree with you. I love seeing energetic people that are, because we see plenty of people older that are energetic, and that's what I'm always from. That's how I came up with the aging well. It's like, come on, let's age with energy. Let's make this happen. So yes, you're exactly right. They just,
Mhm.
even if we don't look, you're right. Even if we don't look younger, we glow. Because
Yeah.
some people, abuse their body at young age, but now they're like, oh, I don't want to do that, so they may look a little older, but they still have the energy now because they work on it, like just like what you said. I love it. The
Mhm.
mindset and the energy. Well, I want to just back up for a second and tell you the other piece of the story
Mhm.
is when I was 24, I had I had always been healthy. I was a young woman. I had just got married. It's the year I got married. My life was, had just bought my first house. Life was grand, right? And I started
Mhm.
having a health issue that threatened my life. And that really changed the way I thought. So, what happened? I'm just sharing with people how I even knew to come up with 31 sneaky ways.
Mhm.
What happened was I started having a heart issue, and I won't go into that whole story. It's for another day too. But basically, through trial and error, this was in the 80s, and through trial and error, I'm trying to figure it out. It took like months, 6 months to figure out what was going on. In the meantime, I'm in the emergency room like once every couple of weeks, thinking I'm dying, literally thinking I'm dying,
Mhm.
not pretending like I'm afraid I'm dying here. And they blew it off as anxiety, every time. But
Mhm.
ultimately, they sent me to specialists and we found the problem. So here's what happened. So we found the issue, which was something called mitral valve prolapse, which is a pretty common umbrella term for things nowadays. But ultimately, the doctor said, here's 2 pills, take one in the morning, one at night, and you won't feel the symptoms. You'll be fine. So, Laura Lee, I was thrilled with that solution, right? Thrilled, thrilled,
Mhm.
thrilled to not have to worry about my heart and waking up dead. It was kind of my joke. I'm going to wake up dead. So, because I was afraid to go to sleep at night. I didn't know what was going to happen next. But
Mhm.
anyway, the point was, so then after a couple of months, maybe 3 months, because I'd always been a healthy person, I said, not even thinking about health at that age, you just go
Mhm.
run and do what you do. But then after a few months, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be taking these pills for the rest of my life. I'm 24 years old and I've got to take 2 pills every day. So when I went to the doctor, that really bothered me. So when I went to the doctor, and this was in the 80s, friends, and in the 80s, doctors knew everything and we did not question them. You did not go for, 2 or 3 different specialists to see what's up. You just believed what the doctor said. Laura Lee, you remember that. I know that was the
Mhm.
way it was in the 80s. Well, anyway, and they were all men. They were all men. I didn't have one female doctor.
In
So
North America, pretty much, you're right, 99.9% were male.
men. I didn't have one female doctor at all. Anyway, as the doctor gives me my checkup about the meds and make sure everything's working okay, I got up the courage as a young girl because I was shy back then, not now, but then, and I got the courage up to say, "Is there anything I can do?" And I remember I said it in the meekest voice because I was so scared to ask this doctor a question. I was like, "Is there anything I can do?" And he was heading for the doorknob at the time. I mean, I still have the image. And he had his hand on the door and he turned around and looked at me and he said, "Maybe if you get your heart stronger." And he just blew me off. But those words changed my life. Those words changed my life. And he gave me a nugget, right? He gave me something to consider. So basically, what I learned in that moment, and by the way, I did, that's when I started working out. I won't go into that story, it's another day, but it was lovely. So that's when I became really into fitness. And it was from my
Mm.
heart. I was trying to save my life. I wasn't trying to look, it wasn't bikini body. I wasn't thinking a thing about that, right? We've all done it. So anyway, that was the point. That's how it started. So because of that happening in the 80s, I knew I had the power within me somehow to figure out this piece at menopause. So
You had
that's,
your why. You had the
oh,
most important why.
yes,
So
yes,
when we have our why, which comes back to mindset, when we have clarity as to our why, it is so much easier. Doesn't I'm not saying perfect, but it's so much easier to stay on track as to why you want to get up and exercise, why you make the choices you do in food. That's a very powerful why.
very powerful. And
Mhm.
that's part of the program that in 31 Sneaky Ways, one of the first things we do is think about your why. And the
Mhm.
questions to consider are really, really good questions. I walk women through exercises about this kind of thing, right? But basically, it's like, think about what it's costing you. I call being overweight like a pyramid, like a iceberg, right?
Mhm.
What we see, I can see that my clothes don't fit. I can see that the scale is too high. I can see that I don't look good. All those things. But the bits that get us, Laura Lee, are the things under the surface, which
Mhm.
is, what is it?
Absolutely.
95% of it, whatever it is.
Mm.
Okay. And that is the part I get the women to focus on, right? Because
Oh,
that,
that's wonderful. Absolutely. Years and years ago, oh my gosh. Well, I was 40 at the time, so 25 years ago. uh, that um, I had wanted, oh no, it was more than that. I wasn't that age. I was younger than that. I was a Weight Watcher instructor.
hmm,
And I remember going to the location, locally and going in the door, and they said, "Laura Lee, you have to be 10 pounds overweight in order to come here." And I was like, "Yeah, I know." I went to the next person. They said, "Laura," they wouldn't even take my money. Now, I weighed 140 pounds, but to them, I did not look it because I have the type of body that I could be a bodybuilder very easily. I'm um, very compact, much
dense.
heavier. I've always, even doctors and stuff, I weigh at least 20 pounds more than anybody thinks I weigh, at least. And it's so funny because they were like, and like I'm 5 foot nothing. So in fact, well, I was a little bit more, but I've shrunk a little. But like my ideal weight was 100, was I think at that age was 98 to 112 per se. So as far as they were concerned, the scales. But anyway, I remember going into the instructor who I'd never met. This instructor, she was from, she traveled to do the presentations, and I got on the scales, and she looked at me. She said, "Get off the scales." Got back on, and she did it again. She thought there was something wrong with her scales because they had the scales that you moved. And then this total stranger frisked me. She was checking my pockets to see. She thought I was a plant to see. if she knew what she was doing. And I said, what the frig are you doing? And she said, I'm checking to see if you got weights in your pockets. Like, what? It was the strangest circumstance that I ever went through. I just
Oh
couldn't
my
even imagine.
gosh.
And she made me get off the scales again and take my jacket off. And it was just it was the summertime. It was just a light little jacket. It wouldn't have weighed 2 ounces type thing. Anyway, get back on the scales. And she says, I'm baffled. I said, that's why I'm here. And anyway, she sent me back out and let me pay. And the girls were still saying, one got up and went to talk to the instructor. Are you sure she can join? She has to be 10
Wow.
pounds overweight. She went,
Wow.
yes. Now they
Wow.
decided that my ideal weight would be 104, which some of that had to do, I wasn't at the very bottom end, but that's what I weighed just before I had gotten married. And I think at the time, yeah, probably would have been 10, 15 years from the time frame.
Yeah.
And I did get there, but it was so I didn't stay there. But it was so interesting what people perceive. Someone can look like, to them, I didn't even have 10 pounds to lose,
Right.
but yet my clothes didn't fit. And I wanted to I had quit smoking at age, I think about it was around age 30, because I quit smoking. I smoked a pack of cigarettes a day, if you can imagine. Woo! I'd be dead now if I kept smoking. Um, and I didn't want um, the fact that all this extra weight was on me, because I had gained it from being in a car accident and stuff. Um, but I didn't want that to deter me to go back to smoking, the weight issue. So I wanted to deal with it. But but anyway, it is so I find the idea. Oh, what I meant, my reason for telling you all of this, they did not talk about mindset back then whatsoever in the weight loss journey. Now, I'm sure they do it now. You were
I
to take
bet.
a diary and to write everything you are allowed to write, and you had to basically follow the Canada Food Guide, which gives you all these carbs. You could have 3 or 4 slices of bread, and you could have rice, and you could have potatoes, and all of that stuff just packs. It turns to sugar inside the body. Anyway, but I don't ever remember. And I was an instructor. Like, once I got down to weight, then they asked me if I'd be an instructor. And I did that, I think, for like a year and a half or so. And it forced me to really watch my weight even more. But so I can tell you that there was never anything in the mindset. So I love that you deal with that first, because,
Oh,
as you know,
yes. Yes.
I worked for 25 years in the financial industry, helping people to deal with, and I specialized in retirement planning. So I was long term planning to help them put money away. We used to say for a rainy day, for retirement, for different projects. But I did not know until I got into that industry that so much had to do with our mindset. That's where we need to start first, no matter what project we want to work on. It's
It's
just,
amazing.
it is. Like,
That's
this
amazing.
really should be taught in school. The only place I ever remember learning later on about them talking about the mindset was anybody that had anything to do with sports, because they drilled it into them as with sports. See
Yes.
it first. Never in the rest of my education did they ever talk about the mindset of doing
No,
it.
you're exactly right. And that really matters. That's the first thing. That is the first thing. I'll tell you a lovely, because, there's a quote that says, first we build our habits, then our habits build us. I
Mhm.
love that quote. I don't know if it's James Clear who wrote the book on habits, but it's
Yeah.
true. It's a
Mhm.
fact. And
Mhm.
so that's part of the, in the program, I talk about habits too, a lot, because a lot of our habits are just like you said, smoking. I mean, it's like a natural, like somehow it evolved and then it became, and then you had to like,
I started smoking to lose 5 pounds. Did I need a slap upside the head? Oh, talk
wow.
about
See,
foolish.
I know, talk about crazy. I know. Hey, I was there too. I'm not going to throw stones at you. I was a smoker too. Same thing. And if I quit smoking, I gained 10 pounds. It's like, what do? Do you start smoking or do you lose the weight? I mean, it is
Mhm.
insane what we do to ourselves. But yes, it starts here. It absolutely starts here. So yeah, I love that in the program. And that is a piece that I stick with through the entire program. It's basically a 6-week course. I do a couple of bonuses at the end, but bonus sessions at the end, just because I want to be sure we've got it hammered in and everybody knows what's happening next. But I really, really love the program, and I created it, like I said, for me. I
Yep.
created it for me to save my life, because I knew from that 1980s thing that if I gain too much weight, I'm going to be taking meds, right? I'm going to be
Mhm.
on blood pressure, then I'm going to be on cholesterol, then I'm going to be on heart. And I'm like, no, 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 I cannot make. So my why was big. And I really love to help women find their why, because they're there. And Laura Lee, what breaks my heart, like I talked about, the iceberg and under it, it's things like they don't feel worthy, you know,
Oh, absolutely. That's for
heavy.
90% of the people, we don't feel we're good enough
Yes.
or
It's
unworthy.
Yes, it's the heaviness of it. So
Oh,
then I know it's so heavy. But anyway, so that is how the program. And I actually do I do one-on-one coaching. I have like a high ticket offer for clients. It's
mhm.
one-on-one. And then I also have which this is exciting, you and I both know, I have a course I've created that I've actually got clients in now, but that will be on our platform soon on Be Connected.
Yes, we're really excited about that. I've never put out my own programs prior to this. But it's on my journey of the things that I have plans to do. So I'm excited also to learn how to do that. And it just even doing the podcast, getting a chance to practice interviewing and connecting with people. Because somebody told me a year ago that I should do a podcast. And I was like, are you sure? Actually, I think it was almost 2 years ago now, and I need to call her up. I said, "Do you think I need something else to do, my dear?" I've gotta call her up and interview her because when I came to this platform, I just loved it because there was no bots, there was no scammers allowed, and everybody got to see your post on this platform. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited." Liz told me that you could monetize it and you could have your account paid for, and I went, no big deal." Didn't even think about that. But as we go along, that's just part of bringing in abundance. You show other people how to make money, how to save money, and I'm all about that part of it. So why not do that in addition? I just it just fit right into my plans.
I feel the same way. The first thing I heard about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to go see that platform, right? Because we're like right now, we're doing a video together. I mean, then I would have to take the video, save it, download it, post it here, post it there, post it there. I mean, with this platform, it's done. It is so done. And it's so beautiful that we can stream to, so many different places at one time. I
Mm.
absolutely love that. And that you're
Oh,
right, that people can click, they can get to know me just by seeing my name and click on my name in a group and reach out and say, hey, Victoria, let's talk. I mean, this platform is amazing, Orly. I totally
oh,
agree. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad to be here.
oh, we're all happy to be here. That is for sure. I want to ask you just before we finish off. If you were to leave people with one piece of advice, what is your favorite advice? Could be yours, it could be somebody else's that you really find inspires you.
Well, it's sort of like what we said, honestly, that it all starts in the mind, and then it has to do with habits. But you know how this is interesting to me, that we hear about the law of attraction, and early on, like in the early 2000s, it was like, oh, basically just lay in bed and wish for something, when the
Mhm.
secret came out, right? And so this is interesting. I want people to know this. And I share this with my clients. It's like what that really is, Laura Lee. is when we tell our minds, ask our minds, talk about mindset, when we ask our
Mhm.
minds to focus on something,
Mhm.
it will. We'll start noticing little things. So what happens, that's why I say habits are so important and we can build them slowly. And that's part of our mindset is what we choose to do. And like you brought up, the why is the foundation for it all. Now, what
Mhm.
happens though is if we continue to make these good choices for ourselves, whatever that choice is, what we do is we actually build new neural pathways. I love
Mhm.
this. The science of it, friends, is a science of law of attraction, right? It's really a scientific thing that occurs. So as we're building this new neural pathway, because we continue, and that's why I do a whole thing on wins. I make my client, we talk about wins all the time. And anytime I talk to them, I'm like, what's your win? Talk about your wins. Just because the more we notice it, the more our brain lights up and says, ooh, I like that. Ooh, I like that, right?
Mm.
And the coolest thing is, while that's going on, that old habit where we would say, oh, I don't feel like it today is dying. While this new neural pathway is growing, the old one is dying. And that's why, they say, what is it, 67 days to build a new habit or whatever. In reality, that's about right as those things are happening.
You're building new dopamine. You're giving yourselves dopamine. Happy
Heck
pill.
yeah. Give me that win.
And
I
it's
love
so
it.
I love it that you get people to talk about it because I was just saying to someone earlier this morning that we write a lot of us write our goals down, write our gratitudes, but it's so great to verbalize it also. It
Yes.
really it sets it in and it's like when you talk about something, it becomes real.
Exactly right. And other people can go, wow. And then you go, oh, I guess that was kind of good. And that's
Yeah.
that exactly how it is with my clients. It's like, wow. And they're
Oh,
like, oh, that was pretty cool, wasn't it? So
yeah.
anyway,
Oh,
thank you. Thank you, Laura Lee, for having me here. I have so enjoyed our chat. And yes, I'm glad to be here. And I definitely want to interview you in the future because I want to know more about that money mindset.
oh, wonderful. Well, we thank you, Victoria, and we thank anyone that is listening to this. Please reach out to Victoria. She is a wealth of knowledge and wisdom in addition. she can she can shorten that road, that path because she's walked it already and she's developed a path, a procedure to help make us have quantum leaps to achieving our goals. So thank you once again. We like to say on Be Connected. If you're going to supersize your group, don't we want you to monetize it in addition. Here, Be Connected, where be seen, be heard, be found. Thank you. I like to say have a great day and a better tomorrow.
Take care, everyone.